just gonna float there?
Hey, where are the others?
You okay?
We're good. Just taking a quick dip to get the crime off.
Do you see a way back up?
We'll find one.
We'll meet you at the exit.
Okay.
Hojo's lab was filled with men like this. Mako poisoned. Every last one of them.
Poor bastards. What do you think their deal is? Where they going?
They're following Sephiroth, or so Cloud seems to think.
He did say that. Let's hope the boy can keep it together.
I find this a little bit weird that we're only playing as Barret and Red 13 after this second separation, because Barret and Red jumped down there to try to rescue the Sephiroth clone that fell when the rock collapsed, and we lost contact with them, and they disappeared until we until after the battle with the Turks. So the question I have is, what happened when they went down there? Did they find any injured Sephiroth clones? Did they... I don't know. What happened? It was just complete, like, nothing. They went down there, they reappeared at the end of the battle with the Turks, and then they get separated from Cloud and Tifa and Aerith again. It's like, oh, okay. Why are we getting split up from them twice? Why not just have what's happening now be what happened when they get separated, when they split up the first time? Whatever, I'm complaining too much. Something they're not doing here that I thought maybe they would take this opportunity to is to explore a little bit of the animosity that you see between Barret and Red 13 in this remake series. Because when you first encountered Red in the Shinra building, for some reason he was aggressive against Barret. You called him a piece of shit and that kind of stuff, or a sack of shit, in not quite so many words. But, I mean, why? What was going on there?
Alright, now how we getting out of here?
That might be an option.
But now they have this opportunity that these two characters are stuck working together for a period of time, and the other characters aren't there to kind of act as a buffer between them. You should have a few moments. I really should have explored this area. I didn't. I thought I'd be able to come back. You should have a few moments where these characters sort of like butt heads a little bit down here, but they say basically nothing to each other, which is why I've sped up the game during this section when I brought it up to 200%, because there's really nothing that's going to happen here except for some light puzzles. And no, the characters aren't going to talk to each other, just some small puzzles and a few battles, and that's it. And I think Barret is the way that he plays in this game is fine as a character that like a side character, as part of your team, because he's got this ranged attack and he can stay at a distance, that he can unleash like a lot of machine gun fire. I'd say actually playing as him all the time is a little bit frustrating, because you stand there and then you're launching your attack, but the character that you're playing as tends to be the one that the enemies attack. So you're playing as Barret all the time. He's trying to stay at range to get his attacks off and stay out of danger, but the enemies focus on him, so it's a little bit annoying. And his attack animation gets interrupted when he gets hit. Plus, he's not very dynamic with the way he moves. So you have Cloud and you have Tifa and even Red 13 here. They attack, they flail their limbs around, they go and hit, moving and dodging and all that kind of stuff. Barret just sort of stands there with his arm out and firing his machine gun. Red 13, I'd say, is also a character that not quite as frustrating as Barret is to play as, or whatever as Barret is to play as. He has those over-the-top animations, but the way that the character is designed, he's relatively small. He's short, at least. So, and he doesn't have long limbs. So his attacks, like, he just sort of spins around a lot, and it doesn't have these huge, like, over-the-top impressive movements that you see out of the other characters. So this is unfortunately a section of the game that I think is a little bit underwhelming. And so not only is, like, the gameplay just a little bit frustrating or a little bit annoying just by the nature of the characters, the way that they play, but they're not talking to each other. They're just sort of going around doing their thing. I get, like, okay, the characters, for whatever reason, they don't like each other and they're not going to be chatty. But there should be something going on between the two of them, like butting heads a little bit. There is some, like, stuff in the game's codex about the history of this world. All this kind of stuff is a little bit not quite necessary for you to know, but it's an interesting little bit of extra information that if you want to dive deeper into it. This mine, Barret had talked about it a little bit, but this mine was a mithril mine that was, well, mithril was a rare element that was used for crafting armor and all that kind of stuff, and it was really useful. I guess taking reference from Lord of the Rings with that one. And eventually, Shinra developed a synthetic version, or some sort of synthetic alloy, which is better. So mithril essentially becomes obsolete as a material. Although you still get pieces of it in, like, the original game, you can get pieces of it here. But it's not really, like, as valuable, so the mine eventually just shuts down. So you had this Junon Republic, which is something which I don't remember having anything like that in the original game. City of Junon, sure, but there's no talk about it being a separate country or anything like that. But there's this talk about this Junon Republic that existed in the area, and I'm guessing Shinra conquered it. But after the mine shut down, Junon had essentially gone and kept the mines open in a way, as not as an operational mine, but as a kind of a roadway for people to pass through the mountain to go out to the other side. And after Shinra had taken over, they more or less just kind of abandoned it, and it just started to deteriorate. So that's the reason why it's so difficult and takes so long to get through here now. A question I had always had about the original game was, what was the kind of time frames that we were talking about here? So Shinra is essentially like the largest governmental body in the world at the time of the game. But there's also talk about how it wasn't, like, not that long ago, it wasn't the case. Like, Shinra only really exploded in value and in power when Mako was discovered to be a useful energy source. And the impression that I had, I'm not sure where I got this from, maybe it's mentioned in game, maybe it's not, but that happened within the last 40 years. So Shinra becomes, it's sort of like if friggin' Elon Musk takes over the entire world. It seems like the longer Shinra had been able to exist, the more likely it was able to accumulate this much power. But the fact is that 40 years, if indeed that's the time frame, doesn't quite feel like enough for a private company, to amass this much power, to run its own military, to build its own cities, that kind of thing.
Now, look who it is.
Hey, guys!
Y'all taking a breather, or what?
The bridge is out!
Do you think you can give us a hand?
Let me see. For $2 grand.